Welcome back, everybody, to another deep dive. Today, we're going to be tackling something that I'm super fascinated by, and it's this whole world of AI overviews,
Hmm.
or AIOs in search results. You know, like those summaries you see sometimes, like right at the top of Google. You send over some really interesting articles about how these things are changing, and it's way more than just a few tweaks from what I've been seeing.
Yeah, it really is. The whole landscape is evolving. And for
Mm.
anyone who's, trying to get their content seen online,
Hmm.
this is essential stuff.
All right, so let's dive in. One of the articles that you shared, new report shows AI overviews trends are stabilizing from Search Engine Journal, really caught my eye. It's saying that after some initial volatility, like things are settling down into more predictable patterns.
Right, that's right. The report's based on data from BrightEdge,
Mhm.
which is a platform that tracks search and content performance.
Mm.
And what's really interesting is why this stabilization matters.
Yeah. Tell me more about that. Why should we care if AIOs are becoming more predictable?
Well, because it means we can actually start to understand what triggers them. Think of it like this. Before, it was almost a guessing game as to, what would get you featured in that prime real estate at the top of the search results. But now we can start to see patterns, which means marketers and content creators can actually optimize their content to increase their chances of getting featured.
So it's not just luck anymore.
Exactly. There's still an element of that, of course, because Google's algorithms are incredibly complex. But this stabilization gives us a much better foundation to work from. We can start to see what types of content, what formats, and even what specific keywords are more likely to trigger an AIO.
Okay, I'm starting to see why this is such a big deal. It's like the rules of the game are finally becoming a little bit more clear.
Yeah.
So what are some of the key things that we're learning about these patterns?
Well, one of the most surprising findings was a huge surge in travel-related AIOs.
Mm-hmm.
We're talking a 700% increase between September and October of this year alone, according to BrightEdge.
Whoa, 700%. That's insane. Why is travel suddenly so hot in the AIO world?
Well, it seems like Google's AI is getting much better at understanding more complex travel searches. People aren't just searching for hotels in Paris anymore. They're looking for specific experiences, like family-friendly activities in Montmartre or best jazz clubs in the Latin Quarter.
Yeah.
And Google's AI is starting to pick up on those nuances.
So it's not just about location anymore. It's about the type of travel experience people are looking for.
Exactly. The article even gives some examples of the types of search queries that are triggering these travel AIOs. Things like top attractions in, things to do in, family-friendly activities in, and so on. It's all about getting really, really specific with those travel plans.
Yeah.
And Google seems to be recognizing that and rewarding sites that are providing that highly targeted information.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. I mean, people want more tailored recommendations these days, so it's only natural that Google would try to cater to that. This is huge for anyone in the travel industry, right?
Absolutely. If you're a travel brand, a blogger, or even just someone who creates travel content, you need to be thinking about these specific search intents. Forget those generic 10 things to do in articles. It's all about those long-tail keywords, those niche interests. Think about the specific types of travelers you want to attract and what they're searching for.
Okay, so travel is booming in the AIO world. What other trends are we seeing?
Well, this next one is particularly interesting because it involves a shift beyond just text-based content. The report highlights a significant rise in YouTube citations within AIOs.
Wait, YouTube, like videos are showing up in those Google search summaries now.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it wasn't a gradual thing either. BrightEdge's data shows that YouTube citations went from virtually zero to this huge surge almost overnight, and then stabilized at this new higher level. It's like Google suddenly woke up to the power of video and decided to embrace it fully.
That's pretty wild. So if I'm creating content, I can't just focus on writing blog posts anymore. I need to be thinking about video too.
It's definitely something to consider, especially if you want to increase your chances of getting featured in an AIO. And it makes sense, right? Video is incredibly engaging. It can convey information quickly and effectively, and it's just more dynamic than plain text.
Totally. But are all YouTube videos fair game? Or does Google seem to favor certain types?
There definitely seem to be some preferences.
Yeah.
The report mentions that Google seems to be prioritizing how-to videos, in-depth reviews, and product comparisons. Basically anything that provides valuable, engaging information in a visual format.
Okay, that's making more sense. So it's not just about throwing any random video up on YouTube. It's about creating something that actually adds value for the user.
Precisely. And don't forget about the technical side of things. Even the best video won't get seen if it's not properly optimized. Make sure you're using clear titles and descriptions and relevant tags. And there's this thing called videoschema.org structured data that you can use to help Google understand your video content better.
Videoschema.org. Okay, I'm going to need you to break that down for me a little bit later.
Absolutely. We can definitely dive into the technical details. But for now, I think the key takeaway is that video is becoming a major player in the AIO landscape.
Got it. So we've got stabilizing trends, a travel boom, and the rise of YouTube. Is there anything else we should be paying attention to?
Well, the report also touches on a few other sectors like education, B2B, and healthcare. Their AIO activity seems to be relatively stable for now. But even within those sectors, there are some interesting nuances emerging.
Ooh, give me the juicy details. What kind of nuances are we talking about?
For example, in the education sector, they're seeing an increase in complex educational queries triggering AIOs. These aren't just simple searches like best online colleges. We're talking about things like cybersecurity certification prerequisites or career options with a psychology degree. People are looking for very specific information related to their educational paths, and Google's AI is starting to cater to that.
So it's not just travel that's getting more nuanced. Even educational searches are becoming more complex, and Google's trying to keep up.
Exactly. As Google's AI technology continues to evolve, we can expect AIOs to become even more sophisticated and capable of addressing those complex search intents.
This is all really fascinating, but my brain is starting to feel a bit full.
I know it's a lot to take in. We've covered a lot of ground in this first part of our deep dive, but don't worry, we'll unpack all of this further in the next section. We'll talk about what these trends mean for you and how you can actually use this knowledge to get your content seen.
Okay, that sounds good. I definitely need a minute to process all of this. So to our listeners, hang tight, and we'll be right back with part 2 of our deep dive into the world of AI overviews. Welcome back to the deep dive. So far, we've been exploring this fascinating world of AI overviews, these AIOs, and how they're changing the game for anyone who creates content online.
Absolutely. And what's really exciting is that these changes aren't just about the technology itself. They're actually giving us a deeper understanding of how people search for information.
Okay, I'm intrigued. Tell me more about that. How do these AIO trends connect to user behavior?
Well, think about it. The fact that Google is prioritizing specific search intents, especially in areas like travel, tells us that people aren't just passively browsing anymore. They're coming to Google with very clear goals and expectations. They're not just looking for any hotel in Paris. They're looking for a boutique hotel in a specific neighborhood with family-friendly amenities and maybe even a rooftop bar.
So it's like Google is reading their minds, anticipating their needs even before they fully articulate them.
Exactly. And that's where the opportunity lies for content creators. We need to shift from a keyword-centric approach to a search intent-centric approach. It's not just about stuffing your content with keywords anymore. It's about understanding the underlying motivations and desires of your audience.
Okay, I'm starting to see how this all ties together, but how do we actually do that? How do we translate this knowledge of search intent into a content strategy that works?
Well, let's go back to that travel example. Instead of writing a generic post about things to do in Rome, you could create a series of highly targeted pieces. You could have one on hidden gelato spots in Trastevere for foodie couples, another on kid-friendly walking tours of ancient Rome, and maybe even one on best rooftop bars in Rome for sunset cocktails.
Ooh, I like those. Very specific, very appealing to certain types of travelers. And each one is using those long tail keywords we talked about, right?
Exactly. You're naturally incorporating phrases like top attractions in, things to do in, and family-friendly activities in without it feeling forced or unnatural.
Yeah.
And because your content is so tightly focused, it's more likely to rank well for those very specific searches, which means it's more likely to be picked up by Google's AI for an AIO.
Got it. So it's about being laser focused, targeting those niche interests, and thinking like a traveler. What about the multimedia aspect? We talked about how YouTube is becoming a bigger player in AIOs. How do we incorporate that into our strategy?
That's where things get really interesting. Let's say you've written that blog post about hidden gelato spots in Trastevere. Why not create a companion video? You could take your audience on a virtual walking tour of those spots, sharing your personal recommendations and insights.
I love that idea. It's like adding another dimension to the experience, making it even more immersive for the user.
Exactly. And from a technical standpoint, it's a smart move.
Yeah.
Google is clearly favoring video content in AIOs. So by creating a high-quality video that complements your written content, you're increasing your chances of getting featured.
Okay, so let's talk about the technical side of things. You mentioned something called videoschema.org, structured data. What is that, and why is it important?
Imagine you're trying to explain a complex concept to someone who speaks a different language. You might use gestures or pictures or even draw diagrams to help them understand. Schema markup is kind of like that for search engines. It's a way to provide additional context and information about your content in a language that Google can easily understand.
So it's like giving Google a cheat sheet to help it interpret our content correctly.
Exactly. And when it comes to video, videoschema.org is a specific type of schema markup that provides details about your video, like the title description, thumbnail URL, and even things like the upload date and duration.
Okay, so it's basically telling Google everything it needs to know about the video so it can properly categorize and index it.
You got it. And the beauty of schema markup is that it's invisible to users. It's all happening behind the scenes. But it can have a big impact on how your content is perceived by search engines.
This is making me rethink my entire approach to content creation. It's not just about writing anymore. It's about creating this multifaceted experience that includes text, video, and even this technical stuff like schema markup.
It's about thinking strategically, anticipating what users want, and giving them the information they need in the format they prefer. And as Google's AI gets smarter, it's only going to get more important to stay ahead of the curve.
All right, we've covered content strategy and the power of video. What about those other sectors we mentioned, like education? How can they apply these insights?
Well, the same principles apply across the board. It's all about understanding your audience, their search intent,
Yeah.
and then creating content that delivers on that intent.
Okay, so let's say I'm an online education platform offering cybersecurity courses. How could I leverage AIOs to reach more potential students?
Remember those complex educational queries we talked about earlier? Things like cybersecurity certification prerequisites or career options with a psychology degree? You could create content specifically addressing those queries.
So instead of just having a general page about cybersecurity courses, I might have separate pages or blog posts that break down the specific requirements for different certifications, or that explore different career paths for psychology graduates.
Precisely. You're anticipating those specific search queries
And
and providing in-depth, valuable information that directly addresses those needs. You could even create videos explaining these concepts in a more engaging way.
And I'd want to make sure I'm using schema markup to help Google understand that content correctly, right?
Absolutely. Schema markup is like your secret weapon for making sure your content is properly categorized and indexed by search engines.
This is all starting to click. We've talked about content strategy, we've talked about the importance of video, and we've even dipped our toes into the technical side of things with schema markup. What else is there to know?
Well, we focused a lot on the content itself, but there are also some crucial behind-the-scenes tweaks you can make to boost your chances of landing an AIO.
Ooh, I love behind-the-scenes stuff. Tell me all the secrets.
One of the most important things is to make sure your website is mobile-friendly. Google prioritizes mobile-first indexing, which means it looks at the mobile version of your site first when determining how to rank it. If your site isn't optimized for mobile, you're already at a disadvantage.
Okay, that makes sense. Everyone's on their phones these days, so it makes sense that Google would prioritize the mobile experience. What else is important?
Page speed is crucial. No one wants to wait around for a slow website to load, especially on mobile. Google takes page speed into account when ranking pages. So if your site is slow, it could be hurting your chances of appearing in an AIO.
Right, we've all been there. Impatiently tapping our screens waiting for a page to load. Not a good user experience. So, mobile friendliness, page speed.
Cool.
What else should we be paying attention to?
Well, we talked about schema markup for video, but don't underestimate the power of structured data for your other content as well. It helps Google understand the structure and content of your pages, which can improve your visibility in search results.
So it's like giving Google a blueprint of our website.
Exactly. It's all about making it as easy as possible for Google to crawl and understand your content.
I'm starting to see how all of these pieces fit together. It's not just about one magic trick. It's about this holistic approach to SEO that includes content strategy, technical optimization, and a deep understanding of user behavior.
You got it. And in the ever-evolving world of search, that holistic approach is essential for staying ahead of the game.
This has been incredibly insightful. I'm starting to see how these AIO trends can actually be a good thing, especially for those who are willing to adapt and evolve their strategies.
Absolutely. AIOs are here to stay. And understanding how to leverage them is becoming increasingly important for anyone who wants to succeed online.
Well, on that note, we're going to take a quick break, but be sure to join us for part 3 of our deep dive, where we'll explore what all of this means for the future of search. Stay tuned.
Welcome back to the Deep Dive. We've been exploring these AI overviews, and I'm starting to see how they're not just a technical thing, but a reflection of how we're all using search differently these days.
Yeah, It's true. AIOs are forcing us to think beyond just keywords and really consider, a user's intent, their motivations, their desires. It's a much more human-centered approach to SEO.
Exactly. And that's got me thinking, what does this all mean for the future of search? Are we headed towards a world where Google just anticipates our every need and serves up the perfect answer before we even finish typing? It's certainly a possibility. As AI and natural language processing continue to advance, search engines are going to get better and better at understanding the nuances of human language and behavior. We might see a shift away from the traditional 10 blue links and towards a more personalized,
Hmm.
interactive search experience.
Okay, I can see that. But what about the role of content creators then? If Google's just gonna hand deliver the perfect answer every time, what's the point of creating anything new?
That's a great question, and it's one that a lot of content creators are grappling with right now. But here's the thing. Even the most sophisticated AI can't replicate the human touch. It can't capture the unique perspectives, the creative insights, the personal stories that make content truly compelling.
So it's not just about providing the information. It's about providing it in a way that's engaging, thought-provoking, and maybe even a little bit entertaining.
Exactly. Think about those travel videos we talked about earlier. Sure, Google could probably cobble together a list of the top attractions in Rome based on user reviews and data. But could it capture the charm of a hidden gelato spot tucked away in a cobblestone alley? Could it convey the excitement of discovering a secret rooftop bar with breathtaking views?
I see your point. No matter how advanced technology gets, there's always going to be a need for that human element, for that creative spark that makes content truly stand out.
Absolutely. And that's where the opportunity lies for content creators who are willing to adapt and embrace these changes. It's about understanding that SEO is no longer a static set of rules. It's a constantly evolving landscape that requires us to be agile, creative, and always focused on the user experience.
So instead of fearing these changes, we should see them as an invitation to raise our game, to create even more compelling, engaging, and human-centered content.
Exactly. And the rewards are there for those who do it well. AIOs are a prime example of that. By understanding how they work and how to optimize for them, content creators can position themselves to reach a wider audience and make a real impact.
This has been an incredible journey. We've gone from understanding the technical nuances of AIOs to exploring the broader implications for the future of search and the role of content creators.
And I think the key takeaway here is this. The world of search is constantly evolving, but at its heart, it's still about connecting people with information. And for those who are willing to adapt, innovate, and always put the user first, the future of search is incredibly bright.
Well said. And to our listeners, thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the world of AI overviews. We hope you learned something new, and we encourage you to keep exploring, keep experimenting, and keep pushing the boundaries of what's possible in the ever-changing landscape of search.